Congratulations, you've just found the #1 over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert and I'm the founder of The Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, capable bodies they love for the rest of their lives. So today we have another edition of the Coach's Corner. No guest or co-host today, it's just me. But what I want to do this week is talk about some nutrition basics to help you build that lean, strong, healthy body that probably most of you listening to this are chasing. But what I really want to do is demystify the process. So look, I know there is a ton of information swirling around out there, most of it conflicting around what we should eat, when we should eat, how we should eat, how much we should eat, how little we should eat. There's low carb, there's high carb, there's low fat, there's high fat, there's vegans and carnivores and intermittent fasting zealots and everything in between. And this can be a little overwhelming. And look, I want to back up and just talk about our own here at the Silver Edge. In our coaching practice, we have a very specific body composition change framework. And I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit complicated. If you're not familiar, we have a pre-diet phase where we're very focused on metabolic restoration. We have an actual fat loss phase, and then we have basically a reverse diet phase or a post-diet phase. So we have this 3-phased framework that we use with all our one-on-one clients. And I get it. Some of that can seem a little overwhelming. It can seem kind of complicated. Now, we've done tons of episodes in the past here on this podcast where we outline all 3 of those phases. If you want some more information, hit me up. I can point you to some of those old episodes where we pull that apart. So I guess what I'm saying is that I don't want to discount the fact that nutritional science or that human metabolism aren't in fact vastly complicated subjects. But here's the deal. What and how much we eat as men and women over 50, learning to burn some fat and build some muscle really isn't all that complicated. And so that's what I want to lay out for you today. I want to talk about the Silver Edge Nutrition Pyramid. I developed this nutritional pyramid as a way to make nutrition, in other words, what you should eat for your goals, much simpler than a lot of what you see swirling around there. Now, look, the most simple advice out there is if you want to lose weight, simply eat less. Or maybe you might have heard that put this way, you should eat less and move more. And if you listen to this podcast for any amount of time, you know we're not big fans of that very vague advice. And in fact, there's some of you out there who should not, in fact, eat less for your weight loss goals. Now, we'll get to all that here in a minute. I want to get out in front of myself, but I just want to introduce you to this framework, this very simple framework of how we should be eating in order to achieve whatever it is we want. So for most of us, that's going to be, hey, I'd like to lose a little fat and maybe build a little bit of muscle. But whatever your goals are, whether it's health, longevity, aesthetics, if it's performance, I think you'll find that what we're getting ready to talk with here in the Silver Edge Nutrition Pyramid, this simple framework, will help move you further towards those goals. Now, let's back up before I launch into the nutrition pyramid, and let's just spend a minute talking about why we eat. Now, the obvious answer there is we eat for sustenance. We will die if we don't eat. So we have a biological need for eating. But I want to acknowledge before we start talking about what we eat, how much we eat, when we eat, all of these factors here, that we eat for all sorts of reasons as human beings, as social creatures. We eat when we're happy. We eat when we're sad. We eat when we're anxious or depressed. We celebrate with food. We connect with loved ones over food. Furthermore, we eat for specific goals very often. So we may eat to lose weight. We may eat to build muscle or to improve athletic performance. But here's the deal. As men and women over 50 who want to be lean and strong and capable, what we really need are a set of simple guidelines that will serve us. And again, that's whether we want to lose fat, build muscle, or just build overall health. And that's where the Silver Edge Nutrition Pyramid comes in. Now, those of you that are watching this on YouTube, this is going to be pretty simple because you're going to see a graphic right here of the actual nutrition pyramid, what it looks like, and the order of importance. Those of you out there in podcast land, bear with me here a little bit. So before we get started, let's just get this graphic in your mind. So imagine a pyramid with the base at the bottom and of course the tip at the top. And we are going to horizontally divide this pyramid into 4. So we're going to have a layer across the bottom. That's going to be our base. And then going north here, going up a layer, we're going to have another smaller layer, and that's going to be layer 2. And then moving north up into the next layer, a little smaller subset of our pyramid. That's going to be the 3rd section. And then finally, there's going to be that 4th bit at the top, the very tip of the pyramid. So if you just visualize that in your mind, that's what we're going to be talking about when we talk about the Silver Edge Nutrition Pyramid. And basically what we're going to do is rank in order of importance the things that really matter, again, when it comes to whatever your goals are, whether that's fat loss, muscle building, overall health, and longevity. And I'll go ahead and tell you what those 4 things are, and then we'll dive into each one and talk about each one individually. So the base of the pyramid, in other words, the most important thing you can do for your body composition, for your health, for your athletic performance, for that matter, is what you eat. So the foods that you select are going to be the most important. So let's just say most of you out there listening probably have a weight loss goal. The most important thing you can do to change your nutrition, to change your body, is focus on what you eat. The next most important thing you can do to change your body composition and your health and your longevity is to focus on how you eat. The third most important thing you can do, so we're moving north to the third section of our little pyramid here, is to focus on how much you eat. And the least important thing that you can do for body composition, health, overall performance is to focus on when you eat. Okay, so you with me? We've got these 4 layers of our pyramid. Starting at the bottom, we've got that solid base, what you eat. Moving up to the next layer of our pyramid, we have how you eat. Then moving north, we have how much you eat. And then finally, that very tip of our pyramid, we have when you eat. Now, this catches a lot of people by surprise because almost everybody considers how much you eat to be the most important factor in whether you gain weight, lose weight. And look, that is a critical piece of the puzzle, but it's not the most important thing. So bear with me if that sounds a little like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not sure I'm tracking with you there, Kev. Stick with me here for a minute, see if this makes sense. Let's start at the base of our pyramid. So if you remember, the base is the most important thing. This is the foundation of body composition, health, longevity, and that's what you eat. It is the most important thing you can do in order to lose fat, build muscle, be healthy, live a nice long time. And when I say what you eat, what I'm talking about is primarily choosing real whole foods. So as much as possible, you want to eliminate or greatly reduce these ultra-processed foods. And here's why. Studies show that we tend to overeat approximately 500 calories a day when we consume primarily processed foods. Now, that's pretty alarming. So in other words, we've had some very good controlled studies that show when people have free access to either highly processed foods or all natural foods, and they can eat as much or as little as they like, they naturally select an additional 500 calories when offered the highly processed food. But here's the kicker. Over 70% of the average American diet is now 70% processed and ultra-processed foods. That's bad news. I mean, that's the average. That means there's a whole bunch of y'all out there that are eating more than 70% of your diet for processed foods. And very few of us out there that are selecting the vast majority of our diet from real whole foods. And why this is particularly bad, it's not just so much that you're eating additional calories, but you're eating additional crap calories. In other words, when we start moving into these highly processed foods, what we're getting is a high calorie load with a very, very low nutrient load. We want the exact opposite of that. We want the most nutrient bang for our buck we can get when we select foods. And the only way we're going to do that is by selecting real whole foods. Now look, there is a giant industry working against us here. These ultra-processed foods are scientifically engineered by PhD chemists, and they're designed that way to cause us to overeat. They're designed to be, the industry term is hyper-palatable. These foods are designed to hit your bliss point. That's another industry term that the food industry uses when they talk about these highly hyper-palatable, highly processed foods. So in other words, they're trying to create these food-like concoctions to actually cause you to overeat because they're the perfect texture, taste, flavor. They have just the right amount of sweet, salt, and fat to really cause these foods to be easy to be overeaten. And here's a really good way of looking at that. If you consider a bag of, let's just say, Lay's potato chips. I don't want to pick on Lay's, but pick your favorite brand of potato chips. Just a big bag of regular plain potato chips. It would not be hard for me to absolutely smash an entire bag at a sitting. In other words, if a friend said, hey, Kev, I'll give you $100 if you eat that whole bag of potato chips right now, I could win $100. Now, if somebody sat 4 or 5 large baked potatoes in front of me and said, hey, Kev, I'll give you $100 if you can eat those 4 or 5 large baked potatoes, I'd be really hard pressed to do that. I could probably mouth through a couple of them, but I'm going to run into trouble pretty quickly. It's a lot of plain food. But what has happened, because basically you see where I'm going with this, right? A big bag of potato chips is basically 4 or 5 large potatoes. But They have transformed those potatoes from something that'd be really, really hard to overeat into something that's really, really easy to overeat. And then the cards are additionally stacked against us as these mega corporations are pouring billions of dollars in advertising these foods to us as delicious. In fact, sometimes they're advertising these foods to us as being delicious and nutritious, which is complete and total BS. Okay, off my soapbox there. The number one thing we can do in order to change our body composition to be lean, strong, healthy human beings over 50 is focus on what we eat. And the first thing we want to do in that what we eat category is work on prioritizing real, whole, wholesome food. The number two thing we can do here at the base is to prioritize protein. Now, most of us in this age demographic, and I'm talking to you guys in your 50s, 60s, some of you in your 70s, we're drastically and dramatically under eating protein. We say on the show all the time, a good target for protein is to aim for between 0.7 and 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. And most of us are nowhere close to that. So let's take a couple examples here. Let's just say you're a woman, you weigh 160 and you wish you weighed 130. Well, you should be aiming for between 100 and 130 grams of protein a day. And let's flip that script around. Let's say you're a dude. Let's say you weigh 150, but you're kind of scrawny and you wish you weighed 170. Well, you should probably be eating between 150 and 170 grams of protein a day. That's a lot of protein. Most of us are dramatically under eating that. Now, I will tell you this story before we go on. I hear this all the time as a coach. I'll ask somebody about their eating. They go, oh, no, I eat plenty of protein. I'll go, okay, well, walk me through it. What's a typical day look like? And they'll kind of think back and they'll go, well, I'll eat 2 eggs and a piece of toast. And I'm thinking, okay, we're at about 15 grams of protein. Go ahead. What else? Well, and then for lunch, I'll have a turkey sandwich or a turkey wrap or something like that. I'm like, okay, there's maybe another 15 grams. We're at 30 grams on the day. That's fine. Where are we going from here? Then, I'll have some nuts for a snack. Oh, that's good, healthy source of fats and calories. Not very much in the way of protein. We'll call it another 5 grams of protein, although it probably isn't. Okay, we're at 35 grams on the day. Then what? Well, and then for dinner, I'll have a protein, a good healthy protein, a salmon or chicken breast or something like that with a vegetable and a starch. I'm like, okay, well, that's good. That's probably about 30 grams of protein right there. And here we are, where are we? 60, maybe 70 grams of protein on the day. But if you're a woman trying to hit 130 grams of protein, or if you're a dude trying to hit 170 to 200 grams of protein, you're not even close. So I tell you that story for those of you out there that may be thinking, I'm eating a high protein diet, just to really kind of examine that diet. I'm a big fan of weighing, measuring, and tracking all of your food, at least for a week. I think that is very valuable for a number of reasons, but one reason will tell you exactly how much protein, or close, I suppose, how much protein you're eating in a day. And here's why high protein, because I get this question asked a good bit. Hey, Kev, why? I don't get it. Why high protein? What's the big deal here? And protein is critical for overall health as we age, but it's also critical for building and maintaining a lean, strong, healthy body. So when we eat protein, our body breaks it down into amino acids. And without getting too nerdy, a couple of things happen here as we age. One is our muscles' ability to sense some of these amino acids that are critical for muscle building starts to become blunted. Therefore, we need a larger dose of protein in order to activate this muscle protein synthesis. So we need the protein in order to build lean, strong, healthy body. You folks have been around here for a while. You know we are very bullish here on strength training for over 50 and building muscle. You're just not going to do that without consistent, adequate protein on board. Another reason why high protein is the most satiating of all the macronutrients. So your macronutrients, remember, are your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. And I think everybody can relate to this. If you smash a whole bunch of pasta or a really high carb meal, you're hungry again an hour later. You eat a big 12-ounce steak, 16-ounce steak in my case, you're probably not hungry again an hour later. That protein is very highly satiating, meaning you'll stay full longer when you're eating a high protein diet, much less likely to grab those crappy snacks in between meals. Now, some fantastic sources of protein are things like lean cuts of beef, lean cuts of pork, of course your chicken, turkey, all your poultry foods, fish and seafood, wonderful, wonderful sources of protein. Eggs. Now remember, a single egg's got about 6 grams of protein, so not really a protein powerhouse, but eggs are absolutely nature's superfood, very nutrient dense. Remember, that's what we're looking for, is that nutrient density trade-off for our calories. good bang for your buck there with eggs. Some non-meat alternatives would be things like Greek yogurt. So plain Greek yogurt, throw some blueberries in there, absolutely delicious. Nice high protein, of course, your cottage cheese. And then for those of you out there that are more plant-based, your edamames, tofus, things like that. Now, when it comes to protein, this is an area that I actually like supplementation. I'm a big fan on protein supplementation, especially if you're early on in your journey and maybe you're unaccustomed to eating a high protein diet. Supplementing with a high quality protein powder is absolutely, not only is it okay, it's recommended starting out. At least I personally would recommend that you do that if you're having a hard time hitting your protein goals. And I'll say this when it comes to protein powder, you want to select a high quality protein powder, regardless of what kind you're using. But the number one, without any doubt, the number one biggest bang for your protein buck when it comes to protein powders, going to be a high quality whey protein. There just isn't a better, more bioavailable, higher quality amino acid profile supplement than good old fashioned whey. I'll throw a link into the show notes here for those of you that are interested in what I personally use for whey protein powder. You can check that out there. But just know that a good quality whey protein powder is going to really help you hit those protein goals. Now, for those of you out there that don't tolerate dairy and whey's not your jam, my second go-to here, and this sounds a little gross, but bear with me, is bone broth protein powder. So our clients that don't tolerate dairy very well, and they say, hey, Kev, that whey just doesn't sit with me very well and have some gastric upset, that's our next recommendation. We're going to go to a bone broth protein. Now, my favorite here is a company called Paleo Valley. We don't have any kind of relationship with them or anything. They're not partners or sponsors yet on this podcast, but I absolutely love these folks. And look, I know that bone broth protein powder might sound a little gross, but Paleo Valley makes both. They make a plain one, an unflavored one, and they make both a vanilla and a chocolate. And I'm here to tell you both are freaking delicious. Now, I'll drink darn near anything. I've got a cast iron stomach, a stomach like a billy goat, and I'm not really that picky when it comes to flavors. My wife, on the other hand, is very picky. If it doesn't taste good, she ain't going to drink it. So she's dairy intolerant, so whey's out for her. I tried all kinds of plant-based ones. I bought all these different ones, including some good high-quality ones, and she just didn't like those. You know, the only one she'll drink is the vanilla bone broth powder from Paleo Valley. She absolutely loves it. She drinks it all the time. And she's got all her girlfriends now drinking it because they're like, oh my God, Tara, your hair and your skin look amazing. And she's like, oh my God, look at my nails. They've never been stronger or more, I don't know, growing faster or glossy, or I'm not sure how you describe nails. But she's madly in love with this, A, because it helps her bump up her protein, and B, of course, bone broth powder is going to have not only high protein, but a lot of collagen, which, if you don't know, really good for healthy skin, nails, hair, things like that. So there's a bonus as well. So first, in terms of quality of amino acid profile of protein, it's going to be your whey. If you don't tolerate whey, I recommend going to a bone broth powder, a good quality one. Strongly recommend the Paleo Valley. It's delicious. And then thirdly, if let's say you're plant-based, you're a vegan, you're like, oh, Kev, no, both of those are out for me. I would look for a really high quality plant-based protein powder. You absolutely should be. If you're eating plant-based, you're almost certainly not getting enough protein for your goals. I would recommend Organifi's protein powder. Super, super high quality. They do third-party lab testing for glyphosates and things like that, which are a danger. Even in some of these high-end vegan protein powders, we're seeing a lot of toxicities in those when they're independently tested. And Organifi, again, I don't have any kind of relationship with Organifi, but they do make one of the, if not the highest quality plant-based protein powder you can get. So those of you out there on the plant-based path, or maybe for some reason just don't want to try bone broth protein powder and have a problem with dairy, there you go. That's one I'd recommend. So there's the base of our nutrition pyramid. That base is what you eat. And we're just going to start with two simple things. Remember, we're trying to demystify nutrition. We're trying to make this simple, give you a framework that you can put in place today. Start swapping out processed and ultra-processed foods for real, whole, nutritious foods, and prioritize your protein. Half the battle is already won just right there. Okay, so that's our foundation. Building on that foundation, we're going to go to the second most important thing for body composition, fat loss, muscle building, health, longevity, all of that, and that's how you eat. And by how you eat, I'm talking about eating intentionally, eating slowly, eating mindfully, slowing down, putting your fork down between bites. And this has been a game changer for me personally. So the way I used to eat is I would just gobble my food. And I don't know why, just as a kid, meal times were just kind of usually intense, often anxiety ridden. And there was just to get it down quickly. You had to finish your plate, all of that sort of things. Maybe you guys can relate to that. And that carried over into my adulthood. So the way I used to eat, see if this sounds familiar to you, is just sitting at my desk or standing over the desk, standing in the kitchen, standing in the pantry, wolfing food in my car, driving, just wolfing my food down, and basically just getting through food, especially breakfast, snacks, lunches. I did a pretty good job of sitting down with my family at dinner, but the rest of the meals were really just rushed through. I'd be on my phone or my tablet or maybe have the TV on or something like that. So eating distracted, and compare that to how I eat today. So I work at home. My wife works out of the office. I'm an empty nester. So I'm here alone most of the day. I eat my first breakfast, second breakfast, and lunch here by myself. And I always sit down at the kitchen table, or sometimes I sit at the counter there, but I always sit down and I eat. I eat slowly. I eat mindfully. No matter how hectic and crazy my day is, no matter how busy I am, I've got coaching calls, I got podcasts to record, I got this, I got that, I got running a million miles an hour. I'll take 15 minutes out of that crazy hectic day and I'll slow down. I'll appreciate my food. I'll appreciate the smell and the texture. I'll chew it slowly. I'm in the habit now where I always, and I have been actually for a long time, but I bless my food. So I'm actually taking some time before I eat to give thanks for the food. I'm grateful for my food, and I'm asking that this food will nourish and strengthen me. So I'm having a different relationship with the food as I eat it. And I think that this one gets missed a lot because we all live busy lives. And you may be thinking, all right, well, Kev, maybe I'm with you on the foundation is what you eat. But I'm not really sure how does slowing down, how is that going to have an impact on my fat loss journey or my muscle building journey, or I just want to be healthy and live to be 100. I don't want to be frail like my parents. How is this going to help? And look, this is going to help in a number of different ways. So when we gulp our food down, when we eat distracted, we have great studies that show we are going to overeat. And there's a couple of reasons for this, but really it boils down to this. When we're gulping our food down, when we're wolfing our food and eating in a hurry, eating on the go, eating distracted while we're scrolling through social media, it's really simple to overeat. And you may have heard of the hormones, ghrelin and leptin. These are your satiety and hunger hormones. So one is triggering you that you're hungry, the other is triggering you that you're full. And when you're eating really rapidly, it's very, very easy for you to overeat that I'm full satiety cue that your hormones signaling your brain. In other words, you've eaten faster than that signaling system works. You've just out-eaten that satiety cue. So again, taking your time, slowing down, and actually you will digest your food better. In other words, you're going to do a better job of pulling all the nutrients out of your food. I can think back the way I used to eat. I'd chew something 2-3 times and gulp it down. Now I'm taking my time. I'm chewing thoroughly, allowing the saliva to start that digestive process in my mouth, because that's where digestion starts, is in the mouth, then on the way down through the stomach, through the intestines, all of that. So that is the second level of our nutrition pyramid. The first, remember, is what you eat. The second is how you eat. And if you just do those two things alone, I can promise you, you're going to move much, much closer to your goal than if the only thing you worry about is how much you eat. So let's go ahead. Let's open this can of worms. Let's get to the third level. Let's get to how much you eat. Most people think of this as priority number one when we talk about nutrition, especially if we're talking about weight loss. We have been told time and time again, the only way we can lose weight is to eat less food. And I'm sure that somewhere out there on the interwebs right now, there is a fitness influencer whose head is exploding because I have the audacity to suggest that how much you eat, aka your need to eat less food for weight loss, is not the only consideration for weight loss. But let's back up and talk about this. So, and I've been talking about body composition change. I've been talking about fat loss. I've been talking about muscle building. I've been talking about health. And you might be with me. I can see how choosing what you eat, maybe slowing down, how that might impact my health and maybe my longevity. But Kev, what if I just want to lose weight? Well, when you say, Kev, I just want to lose weight, I'm assuming what you mean is I want to lose fat and I want to lose it long term. Let's just take that as our example, fat loss. I still think, I'm going to stick with my guns, that what you eat and how you eat are the most important parts of your fat loss journey. And let's take an example here. There are some of you all out there listening to this right now that are 100% you're under eating and you're overweight. In other words, you have 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds to lose and you're under eating. We see it all the time here. In fact, our coaches here at the Silver Edge kind of have a skewed view of the world. We think that everybody over 50 is undereating because we talk so much about metabolism and undereating and the dangers of undereating. We tend to attract those people in as clients. But I'm here to tell you, almost all of our clients that come to us for fat loss are undereating. And you might be thinking, well, wait. That doesn't make any sense. How can you undereat and be overweight? And here's what's happening. Every single time you go on a diet, your body, your metabolism, perceives that as food scarcity. And it preferentially wants to hold on to fat. So in other words, when you just slash calories without any regard for your starting place, your metabolic health, what you're telling your body is, hey, there's some food uncertainty, some food scarcity right now. So hormonally, under the covers, biologically, your body's actually rearranging some things which aren't really desirable for long-term fat loss. In fact, some of you may have seen this where you diet so hard or you diet so frequently that no matter how little you eat, you tend to actually still gain a little bit of fat. You might lose some size in other parts of your body, but your fat doesn't seem to be shrinking because that's exactly what's happening. Your body is giving up on muscle mass as opposed to fat because it's perceiving this alarming situation of not enough calories. And keep in mind, the reason that we store fats as biological animals is because it will, evolutionarily speaking, it was very, very useful in times of famine or food uncertainty, food scarcity. So we would have these fat sources we could tap into. Well, there is no, for most of us, thankfully, food scarcity anymore. But your biology doesn't understand that you're just going on a diet to get rid of a few pesky pounds. It's perceiving this as an emergency. But I use this example all the time, the woman on Weight Watchers. And the reason I do that is because Weight Watchers is basically they get you to lose weight by eating less. They have this little point system for food. And what that really amounts to is if you're a female, you're probably in your weight loss phase, you're probably eating 11 to 1,200 calories. That's what we've seen a lot from our clients there. And that's not a whole lot of food. And what Weight Watchers, and I don't mean to pick on Weight Watchers, what 99% of diets don't take into account is your starting place or your ending place. They just start with this third piece, this third level of our pyramid. And that's how many calories you're eating, and they want you to eat less without consideration for how many you're currently eating. I would humbly submit to you that that is grossly irresponsible of any weight loss company anywhere, of any diet program anywhere. If they don't know how many calories you're currently eating, how can they possibly ask you to eat less food? Now, if you're grossly overeating food or even moderately overeating food, you're fine to go on a diet. But what if you're undereating? What if you've been on Weight Watchers for the last year and you're a female and you're eating 1,100 calories and you still have 20 pounds to lose? Should you eat 500 calories, 600 calories? Should you eat 700 calories? That sounds miserable. So what's happened here is somebody who has gone on a long-term diet or has yo-yo dieted, in other words, has lost weight, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight, just more or less continuously on and off dieting, is these people have gotten their metabolisms to slow way down. So that 150-pound woman who wants to weigh 130 pounds and feels stuck is only eating 1,000 calories a day. She doesn't have any room to diet from there. In other words, her metabolism has slowed to where 1,000 calories is now her maintenance calories. She should not go on a diet from there. She should go on a reverse diet from there. In other words, she should eat more food. And now you might be thinking, wait, hang on. In this example, didn't we start out saying she wanted to lose weight? Yes, she wants to lose weight. She's currently eating 1,000 calories. That's her maintenance calories, meaning if she eats 1,000 calories every day, on average, over a week, her weight's going to remain the same. That's a broken metabolism. Let me back up. That's not a broken metabolism. That's a slow metabolism. The metabolism did exactly what it was supposed to do. Its only job is to keep you alive. It's not to burn fat and build muscle, but that metabolism has slowed so that it has adapted to 1,000 calories a day as the norm. Now, if we very slowly, calculatedly, carefully increase her calories over time, so maybe next week she eats 1,100 calories a day. The next week she averages 1,200 calories a day. And the next week she averages 1,300, on, and we get her somewhere close to 2,000, let's just say for our example, and then we hold her there for a month or two. Now her maintenance calories are 2,000 calories and not 1,000 calories. Now, you may rightfully be going, whoa, Kev, hold on. You went from 1,100 calories to 2,000 calories, and she's trying to lose 20 pounds. Did she gain 20 pounds doing this? No, she hasn't. Hopefully her weight has remained relatively stable. She may have gained a pound or two or even dropped a pound or two in some cases. But if we do this correctly, and by correctly, I mean we're going to prioritize the bottom of our pyramid. We're going to eat whole foods. We're going to prioritize protein. We're going to be careful. We're going to be mindful and deliberate of how we eat. And we pair that with strength training. What we're going to do is build lean muscle and burn a little bit of fat along the way. So we should be able to maintain that weight and really minimize fat gain as we go. But here's the promised land. Months later, because think if we're going to add 100 calories every week, it's going to take her a while to get from 1,100 calories to say 2,000 calories. It's going to take a little while. And then we want her to stay at 2,000 calories for a few weeks to let that metabolism settle in there. So now we have her maintenance calories at 2,000 calories. So she's not gaining or losing weight at 2,000 calories. Her metabolism has sped up. It has adapted to meet her there. Now, if she wants to go into a fat loss phase, because she's still got this extra 20 pounds she wants to lose, right? Now we've put on some muscle, so her body composition is better. She feels better. She looks better. She moves better. She's healthier. But if she's in a place where she can move into a fat loss phase and still maintain health. So remember, she was eating 1,100 calories. We reverse dieted her all the way up to 2,000 calories. Now when she goes on a diet, her first diet is probably going to be 1,500 calories. That's 400 calories more than she was eating before and not losing weight. So I know that's a long-winded way of saying any diet plan who asks you to cut calories without first knowing how many calories you average a day is not doing you a service, not for long-term weight loss. And now look, if you're eating 1,000 calories a day and you slash to 700 calories a day, will you lose weight? Yes. Now that's going to be pretty short-lived because at 700 calories a day, now we're getting into some crazy numbers where that's not enough. You're going to start running into nutrition deficiencies. You're going to start running into some serious fat storage and some sarcopenia, some muscle wasting, because the body's going to have to account for this low calorie amount somewhere, and your metabolism is going to slow even further. In other words, you're just digging a bigger and bigger metabolic hole, so to speak. But here's the deal. When you are intentional about what and how you eat, how much you eat typically falls in line and takes care of itself. And when we think about how much we should eat, there's actually a pretty simple answer to that. And it's enough to fuel your performance, but not so much that we store excess fat. Now, look, that's a really overly simplistic statement, and it's much easier said than done, but it's true. You want to eat to nourish your body. And so for those of you that have a fat loss goal, here's what I'd recommend. Number one is let's go back to the base of our pyramid and let's prioritize what we eat. Remember, that's real whole foods and prioritizing healthy protein. Number two, let's be mindful of how we eat. Let's be slow and deliberate how we eat. Number three, in this how much we eat, here's my action item for you. You need to know what your maintenance calories are right now. So I'm assuming that you're neither gaining nor losing weight right now, that your weight's relatively stable. The easiest way to do this, and really the only reliable way to do this, is to weigh, measure, and track everything you eat and drink for at least a week. Make sure you get the weekend in there as well, because many of us have different eating behaviors on the weekend than we do on the weekdays. But go into an app like MyFitnessPal. There's a bunch of them, Chronometer. Choose the free version. The free version is fine for what we're doing here. And track, weigh, measure, and track. Get one of those little digital food scales on Amazon. They're less than $20. I'm pretty sure you probably have measuring cups and tablespoons and teaspoons around the house. But take an entire week and track everything you eat. And here's what's going to happen. At the end of that week, you're going to take the total number of calories you ate every day, and you're going to divide it by 7. And that's going to give you your average daily calorie intake. And that should be roughly close to your maintenance calories. In other words, if you roughly eat that amount every day, then you're neither gaining nor losing weight. And now look, you may be thinking, yeah, but Kev, I've been gaining 2-3 pounds every month since COVID. What about me? Okay, do the same thing. Let's say you're gaining 3 pounds a month, for example. That's your average. Go ahead and do the same thing. Eat like you normally eat. Weigh, measure, and track everything for a week. Whatever that number is, your maintenance calories are probably slightly lower than that. Doesn't mean you should eat lower than that, but that's information that you'll want to know before you start a diet. And again, I just threw some hypothetical numbers out there, but let me just finish with this. If you take my advice and you weigh, measure, and track everything, and you end up with your average weekly calories, and you're not sure what you should do with that number, here's my generic advice. A little different for everybody, but let's just, as a line in the sand, here's my best advice for you. If you're a female and your average daily calories are 1,800 calories or lower, you should not go on a diet from there. And look, if you're a tiny petite woman and you're eating 1,800 calories, could you go on a diet from there and be healthy? Yes, of course. But for most of you, if you're just looking for a number, you should be eating at least 1,800 calories as a female. As a dude, if you're not eating a minimum of 2,200 calories, you have no business going on a diet. You should probably look at restoring your metabolism, doing a reverse diet, some of the things we talked about here. But that's what I want to leave you with here in this how much we eat section of our pyramid it is important. I don't want to discount. I want to completely throw it out and say, oh, how much you eat doesn't have anything to do with how much you weigh. It absolutely does. But like I said, a lot of how much you eat can be taken care of by being mindful of what you eat and how you eat. The rest of it, we can manipulate calories only after we know what our current caloric intake is. Is that fair? Hopefully that's landing with you guys out there. And I haven't made this overly complicated, because what I'm trying to do is make this simple and not complicated. And I realize as I just went down the rabbit hole here of metabolism, slow metabolism, but just know that in the spirit of keeping this simple, just know that the number of calories you eat is the third most important thing that impacts your body composition, your ability to burn fat and to build muscle. It's important, but it's not the most important thing. Okay. All right. So let's finish here. Let's get to the tip of our pyramid here, the smallest piece of the pyramid and far away the least important part when it comes to health, fat loss, muscle building, any of it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one, but at the risk of pissing off all of you intermittent fans and zealots out there, I'm going to make this very bold statement. When you eat is the least important aspect of your nutritional well-being. So what I'm saying here is when you eat is the least important part of your fat loss journey. It is the least important part of your muscle building journey. It's even the least important part of your health and longevity journey. So as you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of intermittent fasting for our age demographic, and I'm specifically not a fan of using intermittent fasting as a weight loss tool for people over 50. So let me just back up and kind of clarify that statement. If you or maybe a friend of yours or a buddy at work has claimed to, or in fact has lost a whole bunch of weight or even a little bit of weight doing intermittent fasting, know this. The reason they lost weight doing intermittent fasting is a combination of level 3 and level 2 of our pyramid and has nothing to do with level 4. In other words, they lost weight because they ate less calories. Period. Full stop. End of story. It's not because of the magic of eating one meal a day or eating in an 8-hour window. That has nothing to do with why they lost weight. We have tons of really good science now and studies to back this up. But like I said, there are a couple of factors that happen when we see people who are quote unquote successful with intermittent fasting, which by the way is rarely lifelong. This is usually more of a fad type thing, which is again why I'm not really a big fan. If it's not lifelong sustainable, it's probably not going to have lifelong results, right? But here's what often happens. One is we're eating less food when we eat in a 6-hour, 8-hour, 10-hour, whatever it is, and the smaller eating window. And the other is, remember back to our second layer of our pyramid where we talked about how we eat, our eating behaviors. Very oftentimes we have poor eating behaviors that are cleaned up by intermittent fasting. So for example, if you're somebody who tends to snack late night or after dinner, well, if by saying, hey, my eating window opens at noon and it closes at 6, well, you're not going to be, by very definition, you're not going to be eating and drinking after dinner then. And so if you change that behavior, A, you're getting less calories, B, you're not participating in these probably crappy, unhealthy behaviors. Most of us, let's face it, when we're late night snacking, we're not having chicken breast over a kale salad. We're having popcorn, we're having candy, we're having sodas, or worse yet, we're having beer and wine and cocktails, things like this. So know that if you or a friend is having success with intermittent fasting, that's the reason. It doesn't have anything to do with when you are eating. And I'll finish with this. When it comes to intermittent fasting, know that your biology has intermittent fasting built into it, and it's called sleep. All of us intermittent fast every single night when we sleep. And now here's what I personally do when it comes to when I eat. Again, it's the least important part of body composition, health, strength, all of that good stuff, but it does play a role. And here's what I personally do. I don't eat or drink after dinner, and then I start my day every day with breakfast. I am breaking my fast after I sleep. That usually gives me between 10 and 12 hours of quote unquote intermittent fasting. That gives my digestive system plenty of time to have its rest and repair, all these things that intermittent fasting people talk about. And it also eliminates that unhealthy behavior of, hey, after dinner I might have a cocktail, or after dinner I might have some sweets, or after dinner I might eat some chips or something. I stop my eating after dinner, don't eat or drink, maybe have some water, and then I'll have a high protein breakfast in the morning. So there you go, folks. My hope is that you can take this framework and apply it to your life today. So in other words, my call to action here for you today is start at the base of the triangle. I realized that my goal at the beginning of this was to give you a simple framework, and as I went north in my pyramid, I did make that a little more complicated, but a good way to keep this simple is focus on those first two phases of the pyramid and do that for the next couple of months. So just focus on what you eat. Let's clean that up. Let's focus on how you eat. Let's be mindful and slow down and deliberate with what we eat. I think you'll be surprised at how much of an impact that can have on your body composition, your health, your well-being, and just making you feel like an overall badass. So there you go. That's what I've got for you this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, stay strong. Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed this podcast, I want to let you know that we have other free resources over at silveredgefree.com. There, you'll find our free guides with our top tips on nutrition, exercise, and healthy lifestyle to assist you in your weight loss and fitness journey. So feel free to head over there and download anything that looks useful to you. I'll put links to everything we talked about in the show notes. You folks can find those over at silveredgefitness.com/302. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to please click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to please give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.